Divine deception. The golden ships appeared in the skies above New Haven like falling stars, their hulls gleaming with an inner light that seemed to pulse with cosmic power. The massive vessels moved with impossible grace, defying the laws of physics, as they hovered motionless above the human colony's main cities. Each ship stretched nearly 4 miles in length, their surfaces covered in intricate patterns that shifted and changed like living things. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Defiant Dawn, her weathered hands gripping the command console as she watched the alien fleet through the viewscreen. At 45, she had seen enough of the universe to know that impressive displays usually meant trouble. Her dark eyes, sharp with intelligence and experience, studied the formation of ships with tactical precision. "Sensor readings, Chun," she called to her science officer. Dr. Marcus Chun, a slight man with graying temples and curious eyes, worked frantically at his station. "Captain, these readings are unprecedented. The ships appear to be generating their own gravitational fields, and there's some kind of energy cascade emanating from their hulls. It's like nothing in our databases. Any response to our hails?" Vasquez asked Lieutenant Sarah Knox, her communications officer. Knox, a young woman with bright red hair and an earnest expression, shook her head. "Nothing, Captain. But we're receiving a broad-spectrum transmission. It's coming through on all frequencies simultaneously. Put it through." The main screen flickered, and suddenly the bridge was filled with the presence of something that claimed to be divine. The figure that appeared was tall and elegant, with skin that seemed to glow with inner light and eyes like pools of liquid silver. Robes of what looked like woven starlight flowed around the being's form, and when it spoke, its voice resonated with harmonics that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Children of this small world," the figure intoned, its voice carrying an otherworldly authority. "I am High Archon Zeleth of the eternal Kithara Empire. We are the divine guardians of this galaxy, the cosmic shepherds chosen to guide lesser beings toward enlightenment. For 10,000 years, we have brought order to chaos, light to darkness, and purpose to the wandering souls of countless worlds." Captain Vasquez raised an eyebrow. "Impressive special effects," she muttered. "You have lived in ignorance," Zeleth continued, "but that time has ended. We have come to bring you into the light of true understanding. Kneel before us, and we shall teach you the ways of cosmic harmony. Serve us faithfully, and you shall know peace under our benevolent rule." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Vasquez looked around at her crew, noting their various expressions of skepticism, curiosity, and concern. "Well," she said finally, "that was dramatic. Knox, open a channel." "Channel open, Captain." Vasquez straightened her uniform and faced the screen. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth vessel Defiant Dawn. Welcome to New Haven. If you're here for diplomatic contact, you'll need to follow proper protocols. We can arrange a meeting with our colonial government, but these divine claims will need some verification." The response came quickly. High Archon Zeleth's perfect features showed a flicker of surprise, as if he had expected immediate prostration, rather than bureaucratic procedure. "You do not understand, primitive one. We are not here for negotiations. We are your gods, descended from the cosmic heights to claim what is rightfully ours. All life in this galaxy exists to serve the divine will of the Kithara." "Right," Vasquez replied dryly. "About that god thing, we're going to need to see some credentials. Anyone can claim to be divine these days. Got any references? Maybe some documentation from the Cosmic Registration Bureau?" Dr. Chun suppressed a snort of laughter, while Knox bit her lip to keep from smiling. On the screen, Zeleth's serene expression was beginning to crack. "You dare to mock the divine?" Zeleth's voice carried a note of dangerous anger. "Perhaps you require a demonstration of our power. The transmission cut out, and immediately the colony's sensors went haywire. Outside, the weather began to change with impossible speed. Storm clouds gathered from nowhere, and lightning began to strike in perfect geometric patterns. The ocean tides rose and fell in unnatural rhythms, while the very ground beneath the colony shifted and moved like liquid. "Fascinating," Dr. Chan murmured, his instruments working overtime to record the phenomena. "Captain, these aren't natural meteorological events. Someone's using some kind of advanced weather control technology." "Can you trace the source?" Vasquez asked. "Working on it. The energy patterns are incredibly sophisticated, but they're definitely artificial. This isn't divine intervention. It's just very advanced science." Zeleth's image returned to the screen, his composure restored. "Behold the power of the divine. We command the very elements themselves. The winds obey our will. The seas dance to our rhythm, and the earth itself bends to our desires. What more proof do you require?" Before Vasquez could answer, something unexpected happened. A new voice cut through the communication channel, speaking in accented but clear English. "Captain Vasquez, this is Ambassador Tarn of the Vorthan people. I am transmitting from a hidden location. Do not believe their lies. The Cathara are not gods. They are conquerors who use advanced technology to deceive and enslave. My people have suffered under their rule for 3 centuries. Zeleth's face contorted with rage. "Silence, slave. You forget your place." "I forget nothing," Tarn replied, his voice steady despite the obvious danger. "I remember when my world was free. I remember when we had hope. The Cathara destroyed both with their false divinity." The transmission from Tarn cut out abruptly, but the damage was done. Vasquez felt a cold anger building in her chest. She had spent her entire career fighting bullies and tyrants, and she recognized the type instantly. "So that's your game," she said, her voice cutting through the cosmic harmonics of Zeleth's broadcast. "You show up with fancy technology, claim to be gods, and terrorize people into submission. How many worlds have you conquered with this routine?" "We have brought order to 47 star systems," Zeleth replied, his divine composure slipping further. "Billions of souls have found peace under our guidance." "Guidance?" Vasquez laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You mean slavery. You're nothing but cosmic con artists with better special effects than most. You will learn respect," Zeleth snarled. "We have been patient with your ignorance, but our patience has limits. Submit now, or face the consequences of defying the divine will." "Here's a counteroffer," Vasquez said, standing up from her command chair. "Take your fake divinity and your enslaved populations and get out of our system. Humanity doesn't kneel to anyone, especially not to bullies who hide behind parlor tricks." The silence that followed was profound. Zeleth stared at her with an expression of absolute shock, as if someone had just told him that gravity was optional. Double quotes. "You refuse the will of the gods?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "I refuse the will of tyrants," Vasquez replied firmly. "And I've got news for you, Zeleth. Humans have been overthrowing false gods for thousands of years. We're really good at it." "Impossible," Zeleth whispered. "No species has ever. You cannot. This is not possible." "Captain," Dr. Chan interrupted, "I'm detecting massive energy buildups in their fleet. They're charging some kind of weapon system." Vasquez nodded grimly. So much for divine patience. "Red alert, all hands to battle stations. Knox, get me a priority channel to Earth Command. Tell them we need reinforcements, and we need them now." As the Defiant Dawn's crew prepared for battle, Vasquez couldn't help but feel a grim satisfaction. Throughout human history, whenever someone claimed to be a god and demanded worship, there had always been humans ready to ask uncomfortable questions. The Kithara had built their empire on the assumption that all species would eventually bow to superior technology disguised as divine power. They had never encountered a species that made a habit of killing their gods. On the screen, Zelith's beautiful face was twisted with rage and something else, something that looked suspiciously like fear. You have made a terrible mistake, humans. You think your small minds can comprehend the cosmic forces you have chosen to defy? We command powers beyond your imagination. Imagination's always been one of our strong suits, Vasquez replied. Along with stubbornness, creativity, and a deep-seated dislike of bullies. You want to play God? Fine. But remember, humans wrote the book on deicide. The golden ships above New Haven began to pulse with ominous energy, their beautiful surfaces, now revealing weapon ports and targeting systems. The false gods were preparing to show their true nature, and Captain Alana Vasquez was ready to show them something they had never seen before. A species that refused to be broken dot in the depths of space. More ships were moving toward the confrontation. Some carried the banners of the Cathara Empire, coming to support their divine claims with overwhelming force. Others flew the colors of humanity, racing to defend their stubborn, irreverent, gloriously defiant species. The battle between heaven and earth was about to begin, and for the first time in 10,000 years, the gods were going to have to prove they deserved their thrones. Dr. Chun looked up from his instruments, his face pale but determined. Captain, I'm detecting massive quantum fluctuations in their primary vessel. Whatever they're preparing, it's going to be big. Let it come, Vasquez said, her voice steady as steel. We've never backed down from a fight, and we're not starting now. These false prophets want to see what happens when humans get angry. They're about to find out. The cosmic storm was gathering, and at its center stood one small human ship and its crew of mortals who had just declared war on heaven itself. Heaven's fall, the first strike came without warning, a lance of pure energy that split the sky above. New Haven like the wrath of an angry god. The beam struck the mountains outside the main colony, and for a moment, solid rock turned to glass before exploding in a shower of crystalline fragments. The message was clear: submit or be destroyed. Captain Vasquez watched the display of power from the bridge of the defiant dawn, her expression grim but unshaken. Around her, the crew worked with practiced efficiency, preparing their ship for what would likely be the most important battle in human history. Damage report, she called out. No casualties, Captain, reported Lieutenant Knox. But the energy readings from that blast, ... it's unlike anything we've seen. They literally converted matter to energy and back again in microseconds. Dr. Chun, tell me you've got something. The science officer's fingers flew over his console, his face intense with concentration. I'm analyzing the energy signatures from their weapons and their weather control systems. There's a pattern here, Captain. They're not using different technologies for different effects. It's all based on the same quantum manipulation field. Meaning? Meaning. They might be more vulnerable than they appear. If I can find the right frequency to disrupt their quantum fields. Another blast struck closer to the colony, this one turning a small lake into superheated steam. The Kithara were escalating their demonstration, and Vasquez knew they had minutes before the false gods lost patience entirely. All ships, this is Captain Vasquez, she broadcast on the colonial defense frequency. We're facing an enemy that uses advanced technology to impersonate divine power. Do not be fooled by their theatrics. These are not gods. They're just another species with fancy weapons and delusions of grandeur. The response came from Captain Torres of the mining vessel Stubborn Mule. Copy that, Captain. My crew's been running calculations on their ship movements. They're following standard orbital mechanics, not divine intervention. Gods wouldn't need to worry about gravity wells. Exactly, Vasquez replied. Share that analysis with all vessels. Let's strip away the mystique and see what we're really dealing with. On the main screen, High Archon Zealeth's image appeared once more, but now his perfect composure was completely gone. His silver eyes blazed with fury, and his voice carried harmonics of pure rage. You dare to analyze the divine? You dare to apply your primitive science to the cosmic forces that govern reality itself? This blasphemy ends now. The entire Cathara fleet began to move, their golden hulls pulsing with energy. But something was different this time. The perfect. Formation was breaking apart, and the ships were maneuvering like conventional vessels rather than floating temples. They're angry, Dr. Chon observed. And anger makes people, even alien people, make mistakes. Captain, Knox interrupted. I'm receiving a coded transmission from inside the Cathara fleet. It's Ambassador Tarn. Put him through. The voice that came through was tight with pain but determined. Captain Vasquez, I don't have much time. The Cathara are preparing to use their divine judgment weapon. It's designed to break the will of entire populations through selective destruction. But I've learned something about their technology. It's all based on quantum entanglement networks. If you can disrupt the primary node, the transmission cut to static, then to screams, then to silence. Vasquez felt her jaw clench. Chun, you heard him. Find me that primary node. Already on it, Captain. I'm detecting massive quantum signatures from their flagship. If I can generate the right counter-frequency, do it. As Dr. Chon worked, the space around New Haven began to fill with reinforcements. The Earth cruiser Indomitable arrived first, followed by the fast frigates Persistence and Defiance. Not a large fleet by military standards, but every ship was crewed by humans who had heard the call to arms. This is Admiral Sarah Kim aboard the Indomitable, came the voice of Earth's most decorated naval officer. Captain Vasquez, I understand. You've started a war with some self-proclaimed gods. That's about the size of it, Admiral. They're not actually divine, just very advanced. Dr. Chun thinks he can disrupt their technology. Understood. All ships form up on the Defiant Dawn. If these false prophets want a holy war, they're about to get one. The Cathara fleet had arranged itself in a perfect circle around New Haven, with Zeleth's flagship at the center. The massive vessel began to glow with an inner light that seemed to come from beyond the visible spectrum. Energy cascaded along its hull in patterns that hurt. To look at directly, divine judgment begins. Zeleth's voice boomed across all frequencies. Witness the power of true divinity. The weapon that emerged from the Cathara flagship was unlike anything in human experience. It wasn't a beam or a projectile. It was a field of pure destructive potential that reached out to touch the minds of every human in the system. The intention was clear. Break their will, fill them with despair, and force them to acknowledge the superiority of their divine conquerors. What the Cathara had not counted on was the fundamental human response to being told they were inferior. Is that supposed to make us feel bad? Came the voice of a miner from the asteroid belt. Because I've had hangovers worse than this. My grandmother hit harder with her walking stick, added a cargo pilot. Are they trying to make us sad? Asked a colonist. Because I've got bills to pay and work to do. This is just annoying. On the bridge of the Defiant Dawn, Captain Vasquez felt the wave of psychic pressure wash over her. It was designed to inspire awe and terror, to make mortals feel small and insignificant in the face of cosmic power. Instead, it just made her angry. Dr. Chun, please tell me you've got something. Got it. Chun's voice was triumphant. Their quantum network is synchronized to a single frequency. If I can generate the right interference pattern, ... do it now. The science officer's fingers flew over his console, inputting calculations that would have taken most computers hours to complete. Around the human fleet, every ship began to emit a specific frequency. not random noise, but a carefully crafted counterharmony to the Kythera's quantum symphony. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The perfect formation of golden ships began to waver, their hulls flickering between solid matter and translucent energy. The divine judgment weapon sputtered and died, its cosmic power reduced to scattered photons. Impossible. Zeleth's voice cracked with disbelief. The divine frequencies cannot be disrupted by primitive technology. Surprise, Vasquez replied grimly. Turns out when you build your entire civilization on one trick, you're vulnerable to anyone who figures out how the trick works. The Kythera fleet was in chaos now, their ships struggling to maintain coherence as their quantum fields collapsed. But Zeleth wasn't finished. His flagship began to pulse with a different kind of energy, raw, desperate, and dangerous. "If we cannot rule you," he snarled, "then you will burn with us. All ships initiate cascade failure. We will take these blasphemers into the cosmic fire. Asterisk, he's going to overload their quantum cores," Dr. Chun warned. "The explosion will take out the entire system." "Not if we stop him first," Vasquez replied. "All ships. Target the flagship. Everything we've got." The human fleet opened fire with conventional weapons, kinetic rounds, fusion torpedoes, and particle beams. Nothing exotic, nothing mystical. Just good old-fashioned human engineering, applied with precision and determination. The Kythera flagship, its quantum fields already destabilized, couldn't withstand the assault. Its beautiful golden hull cracked and split, revealing the ordinary metal and circuitry underneath. The divine light flickered and died, replaced by the harsh glow of emergency lighting. "This cannot be." Zeleth's voice was becoming increasingly distorted as his ship's systems failed. "We are eternal. We are divine. We cannot be defeated by primitives." "You're not divine," Vasquez said, her voice carrying across all frequencies. "You're just another species that decided to play God. And humans have a long history of dealing with false gods." The flagship's explosion, when it came, was purely conventional. A fusion reactor going critical, nothing more cosmic than bad engineering. The other Kythera ships, their quantum networks severed, began to retreat with a desperate haste. Of people who had just discovered they were not immortal after all, but the real victory was already spreading across the galaxy. Ambassador Tarn, wounded but alive, was broadcasting the truth to every enslaved world in the Kythera Empire. The revelation that their gods were nothing more than advanced aliens with delusions of grandeur sparked rebellions on 47 worlds. Simultaneously, the empire that had ruled for 10,000 years crumbled in a matter of hours, brought down not by superior technology or divine intervention, but by the simple human refusal to accept that anyone at all, was inherently better than them. "Admiral Kim," Vasquez called out as the last Kythera ships disappeared into hyperspace. "What's our next move?" "We help clean up the mess," Kim replied. 47 worlds just won their freedom, and they're going to need support. I think it's time humanity introduced itself to the galaxy properly." Dr. Chun looked up from his instruments, his face showing a mixture of exhaustion and satisfaction. "Captain, I'm detecting messages from all over the galaxy. Species that have been enslaved for centuries are declaring their independence. It's like a chain reaction." "That's what happens when you expose a lie," Vasquez said. "Truth has a way of spreading." As the Defiant Dawn and her companion ships prepared to begin the long work of helping liberate the galaxy, Captain Elena Vasquez reflected on what they had accomplished. They hadn't won through superior technology or divine favor. They had won because they refused to be impressed by anyone who claimed to be their betters. The false prophets were gone, their divine empire reduced to scattered refugees. In their place, a galaxy full of free species was beginning to emerge. ready to write their own stories without gods or masters. It was, Vasquez thought, a very human ending to a very human story. The age of false gods was over. The age of free peoples had begun, and somewhere in the depths of space, other tyrants, who had claimed divine authority, began to worry about what would happen when the humans came for them next. Asterisk.